Lesson 8, solving equations with decimals. So we're going to go through all of the steps that we've been working on, distributing, combining like terms, and then getting that variable alone and isolating it. But the only difference is instead of whole numbers and integers, we're going to be working through with decimals. So I hope you have your calculator handy. So let's take a look at the examples. I am on page 122, lesson 8. So we're almost done with the unit. There's 10 lessons in the unit. So on the first example, we have 2.5 plus x equals 10.5. We're going to follow the same steps. So there's no distributing. There's no combining like terms. If it's helpful, you can draw the wall. Oh, let me get my pen here. You could draw the wall by the equal sign to help you visualize the left side, right side. You could put the box or circle around the variable to help you visualize getting that x by itself. We're going to subtract the 2.5 in order to get it over to the 10.5 on the opposite side. Remember, opposite side, opposite operations. So now I have x equals, and then again, hope that calculator is handy for those of you that aren't 100% confident with your decimals. 10.5 minus 2.5 gives you 8. So x equals 8. Again, you could check it and plug that 8 back in and do 2.5 plus 8. Make sure it equals 10.5. Number 2, again, equal sign. I'm going to put the line there. Our goal is to isolate the variable, but I see that I have a 0.5x and a positive 2x together on the left-hand side. So I'm going to start by combining those together. So 0.5 plus 2 is 2.5. So I now have 2.5x minus 4. Make your decimal point nice and dark and obvious so that you don't forget that it's there. Now I've generated a two-step equation, so I'm going to isolate my x by adding 4 first to both sides, get my constant of 4 over to my constant of 6 using my inverse operations. 2.5x equals 10. And then in order to detach my coefficient from x, the opposite of multiplying by a 2.5 is to divide by a 2.5. So again, the steps are the same. You just have decimals instead of integers. X equals 10 divided by 2.5 is 4. And I just punched that right into my calculator. And again, if you want to check your work, my mom's texting me about paper towels. If you want to check your work, you can then go ahead and substitute that 4 in, make sure it checks out and equals 6 right in the calculator. So you could do 0.5 times 4 plus 2 times 4 minus 4 equals, and make sure it comes out to be 6. Again, I'm going to isolate my variable. If you're uncomfortable with the equals 10.6 being on the left-hand side, you can move it to the right. I'm not really, I really don't like moving things around, but if you want to move it, that's totally fine. Oh, now Mrs. Kolb texted me. So now I'm going to add 7.4 to both sides. Forgot to turn my messaging off. So the opposite of subtracting 7.4 is to add 7.4. So 10.6 plus 7.4 gives me 18. 18 equals, and x is already alone, so we're done. 18 equals x, or x equals 18. And again, you plug it in and check. Substitute it in and check. Problem number 4, there's nothing to combine on the left-hand side, so I'm just going to go ahead and get started. So I want to move the 0.5 over to the 0.9, which is on the opposite side. So I'm going to subtract it to move it over to the other side, left to right. 0.2x equals, and now I'm going to do 0.9 minus 0.5, which gives me 0.4 or 0.4. And then in order to get rid of the multiplication by 0.2, I'm going to divide by 0.2. Again, make sure those decimals are nice and dark so that you remember that they're there. 0.4 divided by 0.2, x is equal to 2. And make sure you're trying this in your calculator. And if you're feeling confident and you think you can do this on your own, pause the video and keep going. So do 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And then hit play. And then check them and see if you did them correct. And then fix them if they're not correct. So I'm going to start by just subtracting the 4.5. Really nothing else going on in this problem. So the opposite of adding a 4.5 or a positive 4.5 is to subtract it. I now have x equals 12 minus 4.5 gives me 7.5. Box it up. Answers are nice and clear. I'm recording this right now on Friday the 13th. You guys have taken your quiz today, and walking around and monitoring, I've seen that you guys have really neat work. Your answers were boxed. Your quiz grades look great. So keep up the good work. You guys are doing amazing in this unit. All right, so I'm going to box up my negative 10x to remind myself that that negative goes with the 10, and this 0.9 is positive. So in order for it to go away and become 0, I'm going to subtract 0.9 from the left, which means I'm going to subtract 0.9 from the right. Negative 10x, make sure there's a negative with that 10, drops down. I have a negative 9.1 minus 0.9, and that gives me negative 10. Now, in order to get rid of the coefficient of negative 10, I'm going to divide by negative 10. Sorry, like I said, it's Friday, so my nephew's here running around with my daughter. Negative 10 divided by negative 10 is a positive 1. Make sure you have a positive 1. We don't change the sign when we're dividing. We divide both sides by a negative 10 because that's what x is being multiplied by, and a negative divided by a negative is a positive. Number 7, one step. 0.3 times x, so the opposite of multiplying by 0.3 is just to go ahead and divide by that 0.3. This reduces to 1. I now have x equals 9 divided by 0.3 is 30. X is equal to 30. So if you were to do 0.3 times 30, you should get 9 if you were to check. All right, a little bit longer here. So if you tried these on your own, I hope it went well. I'm going to start by combining like terms on my left-hand side. So this has an x, this has an x, and this has an x. So all three terms have an x. So in my calculator, I'm going to punch in 0.23 plus 0.37 minus 0.1, and I get 0.5x. So I'm just going to put 0.5x because if we have a whole number of 0, we don't need it in the front of that decimal. Equals, and then on the right hand side I have a 0.2 minus a 0.41, which are also like terms, so I can just go ahead and subtract and combine those. Negative 0.21. And now that I've simplified and combined as much as I can on the left and simplified and combined as much as I can on the right, now I use my opposite operations for terms that are on opposite sides. There's really nothing to do as far as addition and subtraction. I just have to get rid of this 0.5 that's being multiplied to the x. So I'm going to divide by 0.5. So negative 0.21, which again, you don't need that 0 in front of the decimal point, divided by a 0.5. I get x is equal to negative 0.42, or just negative 0.42, because you don't necessarily need the 0 in front of the decimal, but if you're more comfortable with leaving it there, that's fine. Number 9, I have parentheses. Look at that. So now we're going to use our distributive property to get rid of those parentheses. So I take what's on the outside, which is a 0.2, and multiply it to the inside. So 0.2 times 10 is going to give you 2x. 0.2 times a negative 30 is going to give me a minus 6. Now that I've distributed and multiplied by 0.2, the 0.2 is now gone and my parentheses are gone. I'm going to drop down my negative 20 on the left-hand side. Again, if you want to write equals negative 20 on the right-hand side, that's fine. Either way, you're still going to have to add 6 to bring it over to the opposite side of that equal sign. Negative 20 plus 6. Again, make sure you're using your calculator if you're not confident with your integer rules, which I hope you are at this point, but if not, use that calculator. And now I'm going to divide by 2 to get rid of the 2 that's being multiplied to the x. Negative 14 divided by 2 is negative 7. Hopefully, if you tried those on your own, you did well. If you missed anything or made any mistakes, please correct them. We will do the try these in class together. Oh gosh, any more distractions today? It's a very interesting video today. And the Google form questions will be from the homework page 124. CVS Pharmacy. Have a great weekend. Well,